Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. I've been working on the bandsaw while I was doing the tractor-mounted engine hoist, and now that the engine hoist is done, I've got a little time that I can go back through and compile the things that I had over the week. I'm going to show you my progress to date.
Situation that'll mess you up when you're working with a metric tool in an otherwise imperial world. A 14mm wrench and a 9/16.
In the US, we have this situation where we have combinations of metric and imperial bolts in the same machine. Now, normally that's not a problem if you think about it, but there's a couple that'll mess you up. As you saw in the previous clip, the head of an M10-1.5 bolt is 14 millimeters. The head on a standard 3/8/16 imperial bolt is 9/16 of an inch. A 14 millimeter wrench will drop right over a 9/16 head on a bolt. A 9/16 socket won't drop over a 14 millimeter head. The thread is almost a match for a 3/8/16 imperial bolt. That's where the problem comes in. If you don't know, or if you're not paying attention, you can thread in a 3/8/16 bolt into an M10-1.5 threaded hole. And that's what happened on this vise. Somebody crossed over. Didn't damage the tapped hole, but it did mess me up for a bit. One of the first things you're taught to do as an apprentice is every time you make a cut, you break the edges. It makes it so that you don't have a damaged edge when it bumps up against something. And it also makes it so you don't cut your fingers every time you pick up that piece of steel. Now, if this was a regular outfit, that would be the first step towards running it across a milling machine. But since this isn't a regular outfit, once I get the edges broken, then I take and put it onto the hand mill. Yep, a big old rasp.
Leaving a slight gap on the bottom. Originally I thought about just grinding this off until that set exactly flat and these two jaws were perfectly parallel. But then I thought, well, really, there's an advantage to having it this way. There's a little slop in every assembly. Movable jaw is always going to rock just a little bit because it has to have clearance in order to slide. Now, just a little bit of rock is going to make that thing open up, and I'll be right back where I was with the original jaws. It'll try and spit things out the top. But if I leave a little gap at the bottom, even if it does rock, it can come up parallel to it. And if I get this exactly the way I'm thinking it should be, this is actually going to be trying to force the material down into the jaws. It's always going to be trying to move the material that way. This is the fixed jaw, this is the movable one. The pressure is always going to be trying to move the material towards the fixed jaw. The movable jaw can go in and push it down against the table, kind of rock it a little bit and clamp it down while it's pushing back. Now, if it doesn't work, I can always come back and take the grinder and take this bottom surface down further. I can see there's some daylight on the back edge here. This surface is a little bit high, and this didn't roll out exactly square. It's hot rolled steel. Hot rolled steel is hot rolled. It's not fixed. So when it cools, it moves. Thicker sections shrink more than the thinner sections because they retain more heat during the operation. and they tend to warp a little bit. They try and get them as close as they can, but this is for rough structure. You know, this would be the frame of some piece of equipment. You would bolt on whatever you needed to have straight and square, and grind and shim whatever you needed to do to get this thing to support it well, but you're never going to try and make this absolutely perfectly square. It's a good inexpensive option for vise jaws, because trying to buy a casting for this, I'd have to spend a lot of time and make a pattern, or buy a casting from some supplier if I was able to find one. Then I'd have to have it cast and machined and fitted. This stuff I can do on my own. I can take a raw blank chunk of angle iron, which when I started this thing was about 3 foot long, and cut off a couple of chunks, round the corners, machine it up, drill some holes, mount it to the table. We're good to go. So now I need to bring down the jaws from the garage because it's nice down here. I can work down here without any problems. So I'll disassemble the vise on the bandsaw again, now that I've got these two pieces cut. I'll use the existing jaws as a template to set up the holes in this set of jaws. I'll get them drilled, probably do that out in the garage in the jet drill. But I'll get them drilled, have it ready to go. I think this is one of the last steps that I need to do on the bandsaw to make it into a workable item. Then in the summertime we can take it out in the backyard, clean it up, paint it. It'll look beautiful. Paint always makes everything look better. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching.